The only thing that I sort of really excelled on really, and what gave me an interest was maths, numbers. I always remember because in 2000 the machine cost £500,000 and I must have thought I was mental. But then again, I'm mental now, aren't I? So it's not never changed. So in 2007 I came in and we got to a grand final and lost. 2008 lost, 2009 lost, so we were pretty consistent really. I went to a meeting and I remember saying to them, and I said it to Jim, I think Jim's still got the 3 pieces of paper. I said, I've wrote it all down, that's what you'll need to do, that's what you'll need, and that's where it is.
So this is from your business acumen, really?
Yes. One of my main goals that as a legacy, if I could achieve it, is to leave Oldham Rugby with its own ground. And if they had their own ground... Not a shared ground? It may be a shared ground, it may be their own ground.
Right.
At this moment in time, both are possibilities. We had a plan this year, we've achieved it. We have a plan for next season, and we'll achieve it.
How about a scoop, Bill? Any players in the offing?
I'm not really. I might get told off by Mr. Ford if I tell you too much. But all I can tell you is, the signings are going to get better.
Welcome to Tommyfield Live, a chance to meet. Let's join the audience now, live from our radio theatre stage.
Hello and welcome to A Chance to Meet with Gerald, Brierley, and this week we have a chance to meet Bill Quinn, the chairman of Oldham Rugby League Club. We're nothing if not varied on Oldham Community Radio because the guest last week was the world champion whistler. So we do things.
I can whistle.
we might ask you to do that later on. Bill, thank you for coming in.
Pleasure.
Today, and thank you for giving Oldham Rugby League supporters hope, because I had given up hope of ever getting our team getting to Wembley. I know it might be some distance off, but I've got that hope again that I will see Oldham Rugby League playing at Wembley, and it's down to you and Mike Ford and Sean Long and all the people who were there driving Oldham Rugby League forward, and it's wonderful. Thank you. So we'll get on to rugby in some detail later on, but let's get a little flavour about you first of all. Bill Quinn the person. What sort of family were you born into?
I was born into an Irish mum, Irish dad. We lived in Lonsite. Our first house was a terraced house. I always remember it because it had the toilet on the outside,
right,
which was rather frightening as a kid going outside at night time, but there you go. And just a hard-working family. That's all my dad ever sort of showed me growing up, was just, if you want something, you've got to work for it. You've got
Brothers,
to work hard.
sisters?
I've got a brother and I've got 2 sisters.
Right, yeah. So, school, primary, secondary schools?
St Richard's Primary, St Albans, and I ended up at, we went to St Francis's in Gorton.
We've got 3 saints so far, so I'm guessing a bit of Catholicity in there.
Yes, yeah. Catholic upbringing.
Right, yeah.
And it was quite strange really when first day at St Francis, because I think they did it to frighten you really. The first thing we saw as the bus pulled up was 6 monks, and I'd never seen a monk in my life.
Right.
And with the hoods up, and they didn't speak to you, the fear of God got put into you.
Right.
And I think the idea was from then, you know what I mean, that you were going to behave yourself.
Right, okay.
Which I didn't.
You didn't behave yourself?
No, I didn't.
You were a naughty boy?
Yeah, I sort of
just
rebelled on school.
Right. So not academic then?
No, the only thing that I sort of really excelled on really, and what gave me an interest was maths, numbers.
Yes.
I'm very good with numbers, very fast with numbers.
Yeah.
Always have been. When I first started in business, when I had a mobile phone, I never had anybody's number. I could remember everybody and anyone's phone number. I didn't need to have it wrote down or anything.
Yeah.
So I've always been good with numbers.
Sporting wise at school, were you in the teams and etc.?
I used to play a bit of football, used to do a bit of athletics, but the problem with me growing up was that my father was always trying to progress himself, so his idea was to work, and he never sits down. I mean, he's nearly 90 now and he still doesn't sit down. He still does things for people and family. And as a young lad, all I ever did was work with him, growing up working, whether that was painting, whether it was, decorating, whether it was concreting, putting up garage. Then we were repairing his car every night. He was always doing something. So up until about the age of 16, and then what happened was I found boxing. And my dad liked boxing, and his uncle had actually fought for a world title many years ago, and he had an interest in it. So that was my escape, to go boxing, to get away from working with him.
Right.
So I started boxing, and that was the sort of transition of working with them. And even when I was at school, we used to get the strap, but I used to enjoy it because because my hands were as tough as could be from shoveling and everything.
Right.
So I had sort of hands that were as tough as, say, a grown-up. So when I got the strap, I used to tell the teachers they could do better.
Oh dear! You've mentioned your dad, and you brought something very special in from your family.
Yeah.
Now we're on mixcloud on camera, Bill. Can you hold it up and tell people what that is, because you're proud of it?
Yeah, that's my dad. He played for Galway, Gaelic football, which is pretty similar to rugby.
Yeah.
And it's his All-Ireland medal, which is, not something you see every day of the week.
Yeah.
And he gave me that many years ago. So yeah, it does hold a lot of pride of place for me, that.
Excellent. Yeah. I think it's time for the first piece of music, and I'd never heard of Teddy Swims. So what on earth is that about? Teddy Swims, The Door.
Yeah, it's if you looked at Teddy Swims, he's a bit different. He's a big guy. He's full of tattoos and everything else, but what a voice, what a great what a great singer he is. And the record sort of reminds me, it's quite funny really, it reminds me of a marriage I was once in.
All right.
So
you were once in, okay.
Yes. So that's fine.
You said nothing was off limits, but I think we might not go down that route.
Yeah, we'll leave that one.
So let's have Teddy Swims, The Door. You're listening to Oldham Community Radio, 99.7 FM on DAB and on your device, and all sorts of other. In fact, with the following wind, you could hear at the top of Oldham Hedge. We've got you now, 16 years old, Bill. What work did you go into?
I'd always gone out with my dad, driving machines, etc. My dad did a lot of demolition around Oldham for many, many years, and I went out at weekends and I learned how to drive the machines and everything. So when I first left school, I was actually an ice cream man.
Right.
And I went making the ice cream at Savory's Ice Cream.
Savory's, right.
Yeah. And I then left Savory's to go and drive a machinery. I just felt cooped up in one place in a factory, although I loved it. I've always
so
had
you
this,
weren't out on the van, you were making the...
I was making the ice cream,
right.
I was in charge of the fridges, loading the wagons, and I think it's from my dad really, I always had this, the reason I like work is because, same way as I like Oldham Rugby, is I've always got to keep driving it to get better. Can we do more? Can we do it differently? Can we get better? So even though I might have been in a fridge, I'd be organising, we can do this better. Loading the wagons, we can do this faster. Making the ice cream, we can do this differently. And that's how I held my interest in life.
Was it ever resented that you said we can do this better?
No. What used to get said to you, well, get on with it and do it yourself then.
Okay, right.
So you do it, wouldn't you? That was the driving force, and I was never frightened to work. So then I went working in demolition. I was labouring, then I was asbestos removal, And then one day, one of the guys didn't turn in, and I started driving the machines and knocking buildings down and everything else. And then I was managing, and then I decided that it was time for me to go and work for myself and to try for myself. So I started up in business. I had £200. I remember the day like it was yesterday, and off I went.
So you said specialist demolition. Was that into asbestos?
No, when I say specialist demolition, I mean I still do demolition to this day, and I'm very proud. My three sons are in the business and everything, but more not just knocking down, your block of terraced houses or whatever. We do explosives, we do propping, we do strip outs, we do high rise, we do industrial, petrochemical, British aerospace sites. We've done quite a few of them. Mills, I've done a huge amount of mills in my time. So we do anything that's to really do with any form of kind of demolition.
Right.
We've done some we're the only one in the world, the only company in the world that's done particular type of concrete tanks for United Utilities, because they were post-tensioned, and we had to basically make sure that they didn't collapse and do damage around them. So we had to come up with propping schemes, and so far, as far as I'm aware, we're the only ones that's ever achieved this and successfully done it on so many sets of tanks. So we do like to. I was the first in the north of England in 2000 to bring what they call a super high reach. I always remember, because in 2000 the machine cost £500,000, and I must have thought I was mental. But then again, I'm mental now, aren't I? So it's not never changed. And I brought this, it reached up 37 metres high to munch down like tower blocks,
Right.
And that's what I brought it in to do. So I've worked in Europe, I've worked in Ireland. I've just never been afraid to push the envelope and go that bit harder.
Bill Quinn, chairman of Oldham Rugby League Club, will come on to rugby shortly after we've heard Roy Orbison and Pretty Woman. So, what is the reason for that one?
Yeah, because in 1994 I actually stayed in the hotel at the bottom of Rodeo Drive where they filmed Pretty Woman.
Right.
And I'm a dab hand at Pretty Woman on the karaoke as well. So
right.
There you go. So I've always sort of liked it, because I stayed in the hotel.
Feel free to join in, and we'll leave the mic open. Roy Orbison, Pretty Woman. Right, you're listening to A Chance to Meet with Gerald Brierley. It's a chance to meet Bill Quinn, the chairman of Oldham Rugby League Club. Just in the audience here, as my big brother Bernard, who's just reminded me off air, because you mentioned St Francis School, that our auntie, Nellie Brierley, Ellen Brierley, taught at St Francis, and we're wondering, did you ever get taught by Miss Brierley? Nothing's ringing a bell though at the moment.
Nothing's ringing a bell. I was there from 77 till 82.
Right, okay.
So if she was there then, but like I say, I used to switch off from the teachers quite a lot. So
right, let's get to rugby. First, what made you interested in rugby league, Bill? What's the story?
Well, I've always watched rugby league. I mean, the funniest thing is really I've always watched the likes of Sean Long in his playing days.
Yes, what a player.
You know what I mean? And then knowing Sean Whitehead for many years, and Sean had been mithering me for a long time about trying to get involved with Oldham at the time, going back. So I came to a game which was at Boundary Park, and I just thought, wow, this just looks like it could be so much. As I said earlier on, it could be so much better. The things could be done differently. And I didn't really know the history of Oldham rugby at that time. I just felt that, wow, this is great, but I looked at the crowd that was there and everything else, and I think the previous season in 2006 they'd lost every game or something like that.
Yeah, just to remind listeners that you'd been involved previously to you're being involved now, so this is the first time around with the club. Yeah.
So in 2007 I came in and, you know, we got to a grand final and lost. 2008 lost, 2009 lost, so we were pretty consistent really in that. So that was the only plus out of them days that I can take out of that. But what I really did feel was that there was such good people, such good fans, such loyalty to the club, and when I went away I always had that inkling that would I come back, and even though I'd been approached by quite a few other clubs and, you know, people had said get involved here, get involved there, I felt that I would betray Oldham, so it was always no. And at the time my father-in-law had a connection to Rochdale, and I'd actually held talks with them, but I just felt, oh no, I can't do that. So I just stayed, and now obviously I'm back at Oldham.
So what was the process? What happened? You know, did you approach Mike Ford approach you, or?
What happened, and I've said this before, you know, it was funny really. I mentioned it on several occasions. John Chadwick, who's a very good friend of mine, John and Tracy, he was mithering me, and he mentioned about this announcement, that you know they were having this situation over at Oldham, and did I want to come? And I said I can't because I'm away. I've got a meeting that day. Anyway, he was mithering me again. I said, I've told you, John, I've got a meeting. Anyway, it turned out that the meeting got cancelled. So the night before I said, John, if you want to go, I'll go with you and we'll see what it's all about. And when we were sat there, I think there was 6 or 7 new directors, Mike Ford being one of them. And John said to me, would you like to get involved? And I always remember because we were sort of, and I looked along and Aidan Walker was sat on the end, who sadly we lost recently. Yeah. And I said, they don't need me, although there may be a vacancy, you never know, because he doesn't look too well, that fella. Which I told Aidan, we laughed and joked about that. And I said, he doesn't look too well. I said, so you never know, there might be a vacancy, John, you know, my sense of humour. Anyway, I then started talking to Mike Ford, who I'd not sort of spoken to previously, and Mike was obviously explaining what had gone on and things like that, and then I came into it, and there was obviously a board of directors already assembled, and I went to a meeting, and I remember saying to them, and you know, and I said it to Jim, I think Jim's still got the 3 pieces of paper, I said, I've wrote it all down, that's what you'll need to do, that's what you'll need, and that's where it is.
So this is from your business acumen, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
I said, and my experience of being at Oldham before.
Yeah.
So I said, that's what you'll need, and Jim, he does bring it up and go, oh, you're not far away, I've still got them pieces of paper, Bill. You were right. And I just went sort of through it, and I realised that realistically there was none of them that had ever run a club before. There was a lot of brains there and a lot of want and will, but I just felt that I could help, I could do something. So, and I felt that Mike's a really, you know, he's Oldham through and through, and I just felt that, you know, he sort of convinced me. Well, he didn't convince me, because that's probably wrong, because I agreed that I would go on probation for 6 months.
Right.
The first 6 months, and if they didn't feel that I was adding, I would walk away, and vice versa. If I didn't feel it was right, I would walk away. But they had a meeting and decided that I didn't need to, after I think 2 or 3 months, I didn't need to work me probation period.
Right.
They decided to keep me a bit longer.
Right.
So I carried on, and you know, Mike and myself then, we just worked very, very closely. And you know, I mean, what I will say is the beauty for Oldham is that a lot of other clubs haven't got, is you've got Mike Ford, who not only does he know Oldham, but his knowledge and the way he deals with things and the culture and the environment that he tries to create is second to none. And then you've got myself with the business side of it that I'm trying to introduce and build on. So putting them two together, it's quite special, and I think it's already shown that it's working.
When did Sean Long come into the picture?
Well,
as the coach?
Because me and Mike have got the same vision and the same will and the same want to succeed and be successful, not just on the field of the first team.
Yeah.
I must stress that the same vision for off the field as working with the pathways, with Melrose, with, you know,
the women's team,
yeah. with bringing as much as we possibly can back and to the club that it hasn't had for such a long time. So that's what's important, and the kids were so important. You know, that's our legacy, because we may get to Super League, we may be fantastic, we may be brilliant, but to me, that's great. But what really would be a legacy is not only to leave a ground, a training facility, but to actually have the kids of Oldham dreaming of playing for their hometown again. For us to put that facility there for the community and for the dreams,
yeah.
You know, and to stop the players of the future from going elsewhere.
Yeah. The next piece of music is Paddy Riley, The Fields of Athenry. We talked about your dad earlier.
Yeah.
We talked about the All-Ireland medal. So presumably that's the connection.
Yeah, my dad's from Galway, and he used to sing this, my dad. He could throw out a tune, my dad.
Right.
And he used to sing this quite a bit, and I always remember growing up listening to this song. And yeah, it's quite special, really.
Off we go, The Fields of Athenry. You're listening to A Chance to Meet on Oldham Community Radio with Gerald, Brierley, and I'm pleased to say it's a chance to meet Bill Quinn, the chairman of Oldham Rugby League Club. And Ian Wolstenholme has just set me a challenge. He wants only 2 or 3 minutes on this subject because we want to squeeze in the music. So the question is, Bill, I've often heard Mike Ford say that you, the current people at the club, are merely custodians of the club, and that you want there to be a legacy of people around the town wanting to play for Oldham Rugby League Club. And Mike talks about Oldham Rugby League being Oldham Town being a rugby league town, and I'm reticent to ask the question, but I'm going to. One thing is different to when Mike was playing for the rugby and back in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and that difference is that there is a very large Asian population in Oldham. Do the club have any aspirations, or have they made any moves to get the Asian community involved at all?
Yes, I actually had a conversation with a gentleman and a couple of councillors. We call a gentleman, he's Kashif, if I'm correct in saying his name. Has been bringing a lot of people from the town, to which we're very grateful for, to the games. Not only the business, but from the Asian community, which is fantastic. We've had a lot of support from Aru Shah, the leader of the council.
Yes.
And in talking, I actually came up with the idea that at Melrose, our training pitch, that we could try and do some kind of a tournament. I think they call it Kabali, the game that they play. And there is some interest in that, and we're going to try and further that, because we do want to bring, in listen, it's inclusion for everybody. It doesn't matter, not just for the Asian community, but anybody and everybody that's in Oldham and outside of Oldham are welcome, and we want to do as much as we can for everybody.
Yeah.
So the answer to the question is, there are things, in the pipeline for the future, and we want to bring everybody in that we can.
Excellent, thank you for that. And the next piece of music, hit me with your best shot.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Well, when I was last here, I boxed on Sky Sports for the Steve Prescott Foundation at Bolton, and I was up against a gentleman called Brad Heppe, a very well-known rugby league player, and I'd read this article where he said something like he was his physique was that of very similar to Mike Tyson, and with Bill being the older chairman of Oldham, I suppose out of kindness I just need to knock him out. So that spurred me on, which I actually did lose 3.5 stone out of fear.
Right.
And I decided that I'd play this record going into the ring, and I hit him with my best shot.
Right.
And I won, which that was a great thing anyway. But what I did do, which was absolutely fantastic, it was for breakthrough breast cancer, and also I raised just short of £25,000 for cancer research. So that was my main goal.
Right.
But obviously the other side of it, the sporting determination.
You hit him with your best shot.
I hit him with my best shot, and it was a bit of a jokey thing really, but
right.
It's stuck since then.
And
record.
the singer is Pat Benatar. This hour is absolutely flying past, and there are 15 minutes left, and I've got lots of questions to put to my guest, Bill Quinn, the chairman of Oldham Rugby League Club. Starting with, we've got Boundary Park for 10 years. Is there anything beyond that 10 years, Bill? And is that too far ahead to even think about?
No, it's not. 10 years, as we all know, goes so fast in life. So we're already dealing with that situation. There are a couple of big things happening at the moment that only yesterday took another step forward, and one of my main goals that as a legacy, if I could achieve it, is to leave Oldham Rugby with its own ground. And if they had their own ground,
not a shared ground.
It may be a shared ground, it may be their own ground.
Right.
At this moment in time, both are possibilities, and we're dealing with them now, because we're not going to wait for 10 years to be upon us.
Exactly,
and then start dealing with it.
Yeah.
So we're already dealing with that situation now, and as soon as something can be announced, it will be announced. But we have a fantastic relationship. I mean, you've got to understand the Rothwell family are just ordinary, everyday, hard-working family, and what they've done has been fantastic, and I have a lot of respect and admiration for them, and we work very well together, and we get on very well together, and I wish them all the success in the world, and I hope that the fans, I would love nothing more than to see rugby fans and Oldham fans together watching football and watching rugby in a great stadium, at Boundary Park, and for the whole town to feel, we are custodians, and I want the club to feel part of the people, and for the people to feel part of the club.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to get to.
Yeah.
So there's lots of plans for lots of things going forward.
Now, earlier on you mentioned Arud Shah, the council leader.
Yeah.
From the outside looking in, it seems that the council have also been very supportive of the club.
They're very supportive. We have lots of talks with them. They want to see the best for Oldham. Not just Oldham Rugby or Oldham Athletic. She really does. She's got a passion for the actual town, for making things better, for the Asian community, for every community. She wants an integration. She wants the town of Oldham to prosper and to succeed and to do the best. And when I hear that, and I mean, I'm talking about not on show for the people, I'm talking about private conversations.
Yeah.
She really is a good person that wants the best for Oldham.
Yeah. We talk about a long-term plan, about 10 years and beyond. What about the short, because people have short-term plans as well, next season? What do we anticipate for next season in the Championship, where it's going to be a lot tougher than it has been in League One?
Well, I mean, you can see by our first 2 signings.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's several more to come. We're not going to be a yo-yo club. We're not going to go into the Championship to come back down again. Our goal is to go forward with everything we do, which includes on the pitch as well. So it is not our intention, both myself and Mike Ford or Sean Long, to take a backward step. So we will be pushing the envelope, we will be pushing for everything. You know, you said earlier on you've got a dream of getting to Wembley, so have we.
Yeah.
We've got a dream to get out of the Championship, you know what I mean? So have a lot of Oldhamers, so have we. You know, we will just keep going and see where that takes us. But everyone can be assured, with the backing of the town, because everyone wants the club to go somewhere, but unless people get off their backsides, unless they come to support the club, you know, we've got IMG, you know, that's dictated by crowds as well, you know, the points in the IMG. We need the town of Oldham to get behind us. We will do everything we can for this great club and for this great town, but somewhere along the line, you can't just keep relying on the couple of thousand people that turn up every week. We've got to get out to the larger community. We've got to get out to everybody to say, come on, and you know, we want 4,000 or 5,000 people there, because imagine what we could do with that kind of backing.
Well, let's come back to IMG after a piece of music. But first of all, you were talking about you know, players' retention. There's no room, from my point of view looking in, there's no room for sentimentality insofar as the players, you've done what you can for us, bye-bye now. If I was the manager, I find that really tough to say to players, you've done what you can for us, but off you go now. Somebody better coming in.
Yeah, but you're looking at it from a point of view, or someone may be looking at it from a point of view. Like Sean Long, he's been a player. He's experienced that situation. You know, there's a lot of experienced players that experience it from one club to the other, and they move on, and everyone moves on. And what we've got to do as people, I mean, I love every one of them players. Them players this season, every single one of them have just been so fantastic, and a lot of young people get knocked, but to think that these young people go to work hard all day, go to training, train hard, play hard of a Sunday, not only the commitments, but the commitments from their family and their children and everything else. They can't go and have a summer holiday because we're right in the middle of the you know, that's when the kids are off school. So I really respect that. But at the end of the day, if we need to progress as a club, it's nothing against that player. I would wish them all the best and hope that they go on to do whatever they're doing, and we do what we can to help them, but we have to move on with the next player, the next one and the next one, and that'll always be the case.
IMG, after we've heard from Yola, Dancing Away the Tears.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because this song, basically, this record comes from my partner, who I met a few years ago, and she's such a amazing woman in your life. I have a sort of saying, and I say it to her, she really is a good woman. And we both listen to this song and love this song. You know, when you just say there, like the title, Dancing Away the Tears, well, that's what she helped me to do.
Right. Let's hear it then. Yola, Dancing Away Tears. I want Bill to have an opportunity to leave a message for our listeners and the people of Oldham, if you would, Bill. What might that be?
The message,
some of the things that you want mentioning.
Yeah, the message basically is, you know, what you've seen this season and what we've done in our first season has been fantastic. Our next season will be even better. Although we've you know, we haven't been in the Championship now for a long time, and everyone tells us it's going to be so hard. That doesn't deter us, doesn't frighten us in any way. We are still going to go for it, just like we've gone for it this year. We had a plan this year, we've achieved it. We have a plan for next season, and we'll achieve it, because you've got people that want to achieve things. All we need is the backing of the town, you know, the backing of everyone, and I'm as excited.
Bums on seats.
Bums on seats, yeah. But I'm as excited for Oldham now and for this club going forward, and the vision we've got, myself and Mike Ford. It's just absolutely unbelievable what we are trying to achieve, and we just need you guys to get on board. Stronger together is it's not just a wording, it's a meaning. It's what we mean, it's what we want. Stronger together, come on board. let us enjoy this journey together with the town of Oldham.
Yeah. Season tickets going well, Bill?
Yeah, they've done reasonably well. There's, you know, they can. We always want to sell more. You know, we very quickly sort of come up with the idea of people who want to sit in designated seats. So we've done a section. Then there's the rest of it where people can move around. Pie and Peas this week will be announced. Unfortunately, we did find out the night before we were about to announce the season tickets that previous promos and Pie and Peas people had been using them and getting them for half price. So that's why we had to change at the last minute this year, and we're sorry about any inconvenience that's happened to people, but we are getting on top of that. We've employed recently Lynn White, who's head of our admin, and that'll only get better, you know, once she's bedded in properly. And again, there'll be a lot more contact with the public and things made more easier to understand. So again, it's just all progress at the club.
And I'm being waved at that we've got to get into the last piece of music. How about a scoop, Bill? Any players in the offing that you're going to tell us about?
Oh, I'm not really. I might get told off by Mr. Ford if I tell you too much. But all I can tell you is, yeah, the signings are going to get better.
Right.
They're going to get better, and the signing that everyone keeps asking us about, and what I've been asked about today.
Felix.
We'll be having some good news on that very shortly for you.
We're going to. Thanks for your time, Bill. It's been wonderful. You're a guest anytime you want. Billie Eilish, Birds of a Feather, taking us to the news. Thanks, Bill.